Hello, everyone. Glad to be back with you all. I, of course, took a little break. I was gone for the holidays and so on, but a lot has happened. We've had this taste of the utility run. If anything, we're getting these snacks, if you will, but we're not right in a true utility run. In this outline, it will be jam packed with quite a few things to get into. XRP, solving the mystery of 589. I know that's a bold thing to state. You're going to want to stick around to the end of the outline to hear how I tie in everything to that particular bit of research. On top of that, QNT, some real key discoveries that you want to pay attention with that as well. As you guys have seen, a lot of these have absolutely ripped. And more importantly, what about the X's? XRP, XLM, XDC. Yes, I have some updates in regards to all of it. So we're going to get into all the material. I just kindly ask you, especially if you're new, to smash that like, consider subscribing, hit the bell notification. A lot of you guys, for whatever reason, you watch the content, but you're not subscribed. All I do is kindly ask you to do that. It means a lot, and it helps the channel grow. So without further ado, let's get into the material. First thing I'm going to share with you is this. Shout out to our brother Smoke, and he posted this over on the X platform. Why present it to you? Because again, it's the bigger picture for XRP. Long before Bitcoin, there was XRP. I did a video on that. So at the very end of this, you will see a link to that particular one. And by all means, if you're new to this channel, check out the other content. It's not time sensitive. You'll learn a lot. So let's jump into it from Smoke. What does he have here? Well, he gets into the weeds of this, and I'll full screen this. He states, yes, Ripple is older than Bitcoin. I agree. I mean, if anything, this is probably a part 3, if you will. But it is documented, and we're going to get into the weeds of that here in a bit. But more importantly, shout out to this guy. He follows me, I follow him, and I appreciate it. But I like what he shares. And he has the whole thing about how he dug deep, I should say, and he found the whole thing that XRP technology was created by SHA-512 hash algorithm and was developed, of course, in 2001. Think about this. This is long before the whole idea of Bitcoin. And of course, I hold both BTC and BSV. And if anything, I always like to recognize those as well. But he has a link directly to this. We'll get into that here in a bit and the significance of that. But again, back to Smoke. Why? Well, it's what Smoke has to share with us all. And from this particular document called Frontiers in Blockchain, you will see, plain as day, some key things here. Number one, it's the whole thing of Ripple formalization of remittances and correspondent banking. Older than Bitcoin itself, Ripple merged in 2004 as a mutual credit network like Hawala, a time bank, or a local exchange trading system called Let's. And what's also important to know is that it's the statements on the bottom. Like it says, in addition to allowing poor customers to become a profitable market segment, open protocols and distributed architectures can enable entirely new and novel offerings. And that other quote towards the bottom, to allow the poor to become a profitable market segment, hence advancing the frontier, Ripple's interoperability protocols promise to unlock the pools of liquidity trapped in Nostro and Vostro accounts. That Ripple estimated between 1.6 to 5 trillion, and of course that was back in 2016. Those estimates are actually higher now based off of current market conditions. As we jump more into this, I want to get more into the weeds of why it again is all important. Because when we get into some of these things, well, understand that we need to understand, the whole idea of Hawala. What does it mean? Well, it means transfer in Arabic. In Hindi and Urdu, it is defined as trust. It refers to a traditional informal system to transfer funds from one geographic location to another. Again, sometimes it's all about the terminology, but more importantly, well, what else do we have? Well, when we get more into this, you see some key things here, and that is this. It's the fate of Hawala. What happened to it? Well, post the 9/11 attacks in 2001 on the United States soil, it made the SEC and FinCEN take notice of the channels of terror financing using the Hawala networks. Following this, a concerted effort was launched globally, which clamped down upon the activities of various Hawala networks. Think about this for a second. Do we have a case here where, basically speaking, this was another reason why maybe SEC maybe went after Ripple, other than the things that we already know about? Could be, but I'm just putting that out there. On top of that, let me jump more into it. I know I'm kind of rapidly going somewhat fast through this because I don't want to make a 2-hour long deep dive, but check this out. There's more details about this, this time from CoinDesk. It states good parallel is the Hawala network, a traditional non-digital way of sending money from city to city. All right. What about, for example, country to country, right? Bridge currencies. But Hawala has its roots in medieval Arabia and is still in use today in places where banks won't or can't operate. A medieval banking system? That sounds crazy. Hawala, best described as money transmission without money movement, providing the appearance of instant remittance between separate locations, for example, sending money between different cities. I want you to remember some of these key terms as we get more into everything in this jam packed deep dive video. Because when you get more into it, look at this. This is from elibrary.imf. Yes, the International Monetary Fund. Why is this significant? Well, you see here, the author is this person named Saeed Al-Hamiz, and it was published originally on the 24th of March, 2005. But the key words always stand out, right? Money, remittance, transactions, regulation, Hawala transaction. And you see some other doom and gloom things like drug money laundering and control environment, money exchange, migrant labor, South Asia, Central Asia, so on and so forth. But again, getting more into the weeds of this, because on the top right, regulatory frameworks for Hawala and other remittance systems. Think about that for a moment. And more importantly, understand, like it says on the bottom, the instruments that predate the conventional banking system and have contributed to the development of trade. We will get into the XDC portion and the exchange of goods, between nations and regions. To take you further into this, look at how you see the visualizations. This is again from IMF in regards to the reference of Hawala. And as you see here, it's all about the remittance codes and the cash given to families and how it all cycles together. But emphasis on what? Remittance codes. I'm putting emphasis on that because when we get to the end of the outline, you'll see how I tie all this in. More importantly, as we move further along, what about the whole thing of code? Because I did mention the whole thing of XRP 589. Don't forget this particular part, because XRP does have a remittance code, and a lot of people may not be aware of it. But again, back to what we saw reference from Quincy Butler. Shout out to him, because on X, he was talking about some of these things. But more importantly, when you get more into the weeds of it, it's the whole idea that XRP built for payments. So currency codes, well, like it says in the XRP ledger, the currency code is that huge long number. And it says it's always disallowed. Well, why would that be? It says the code, which is that 0x and that long number, is usually disallowed, but it is used in rare cases. What rare cases would we have moving forward? Interesting. And I'll give you the examples, of course, later in the outline. As we move further into the outline, how does Hawala transaction work? Now, this gets good. So it talks about the initiation, right? And more importantly, talks about the sender, person in the country, how they approach a local hollow lotter, no pun intended, to arrange for remittance to a contact in another country. This contact is often a family member or someone known to the sender. Again, back to the Ripple reference from the IMF. But more importantly, it has a breakdown of how this all happens. And if anything, that was from getfocal.ai. Now check this out. I took the liberty of signing up for this particular thing, asked me if I ever wrote, for example, a master's thesis, and I had to reference the one I did in the past just to get this to you guys. But if anything, I thought it was a great finding. And this is from academia.edu. And more importantly, it's about money infrastructure, blockchain technologies, and the ecologies of the memory bank. Here's the focus. Here's the highlight. Focused specifically on cross-border payments, the thesis utilizes the blockchain interoperability firm as a revelatory case for investigating the entanglements of matter, meaning, space, desire, and power that pervade all of the money's infrastructures. Again, those references to all of the money. If we're talking about all of the money, wouldn't that be debt? Wouldn't that be derivatives? Wouldn't that be all of the above? I think the answer is yes. More importantly, what about Ripple? Well, this gets good because as we get further into it, you see here constantly in this case study lots of mentions about Ripple. But more importantly, as we get further into it, we see, for example, this Hawala transaction, and more importantly, in figure 30, clustered addresses in Ripple. A gateway? Well, what else do I have? And again, why do I point it out? Well, as I get further into this, we go to a place called blockchain.cs.ucl. And what you see here in the document is referred to this, a definition of the Internet of Value. Again, why is that important? Well, like it says here, in the context of blockchain, the term Internet of Value was mainly popularized, of course, by Ripple. And more importantly, the whole thing of a distributed system for settlement. You have to keep in mind is that exchange, and more importantly, the core features of all definitions, the capability of blockchain to facilitate the exchange of digitized assets among peers. Peer to peer? If anything, I thought Bitcoin was supposed to be a peer to peer cash system that's supposed to scale. Interesting. As we get more into this, as you see here from literally the same PDF, it gets really, really interesting because when we talk about Quant, well, what do we have here? Well, again, interesting to see this because, and I call it my boil it, mash it, stick in the stew moment, it's the common standards, everybody. Legal, technical, they are required to ensure that the internet value does not add another layer of complexity on markets between suppliers and consumers. Blockchain should, in principle, enhance the traceability of transactions and hence transparency. The encryption of the information could make it harder to disentangle it and to process it, but at least in the short term. This would effectively render supervisory work more challenging. Now, listen to this. Blockchain DLT standards and governance need to be introduced in each country to control and manage adoption within the country and, of course, between countries. Most of us know this, some don't. But from a common standard view, there you go. Boil it, mash it, stick it, and stew. Quant Network, ISO TC 307, their particular standard, already developed a governance regulatory technology standard. And more importantly, like it says, to govern the interactions between participants, both permission and non-permissioned. All right, what else do we have and why do I even bother citing this? Because we can see here is back to the same source, if you will, and this time from Asia Global Institute, HKU, and it's about the Ukraine sanctions in central bank digital currencies. Now, people will state, of course, this is where Stellar comes involved. And of course, I'm not making this political. I just want to point out some key things. Because when you get into this, back to the reference to Hawala. Why is that important? Well, dating back from the 19th century, there was formalizations and legal frameworks such as the UK Bills of Exchange Act that dates all the way back to 1882. Fast forward to where we're at now with the Electronic Trades Documents Act and, of course, XDC. Why? Because under these structures, gold, yes, I mentioned gold because we're talking about XRP and gold again, or paper currencies representing gold could be used as a medium of exchange. They could function as a means of payment via parallel accounts held in major transaction locations, with gold or sterling debited from one account and credited to another, facilitating, of course, transactions. Think about that. Hawala is similar. In many cases, such as correspondent banking structures and dual entry accounting, they continue to be the basis of contemporary international payment systems. Today, electronic payment systems dominate cross border payments, but the underlying parallel structures continue. And again, why am I citing this? I'll come back into frame because I want you guys to understand that every single reference, whether it's from the IMF, the World Bank, you name it, it is never mentioned that they will use BTC for cross-border payments. Of course they wouldn't. For the same reason that if you are going to claim that Bitcoin is digital gold, right? That BTC, excuse me, is digital gold. Well, think about it, if you had actual gold bullion in your car or truck, that probably would still take a while to even drive it a few miles down the road, right? It's not going to be instantly transferred. Of course not. That's a physical thing. So, where I'm going with this is this: that is slow. And if anything, when we talk about cross border payments and so on, well, at least to remittances, it needs to be super fast. Say what you want. BTC, the Pony Express of crypto, that is 2 to 7 TPS. And yes, I'm fully aware of projects like Stacks and so on. I used to be in Stacks, and if anything, I took my profits on it, and it's a great project. But the point is that that is a different layer. That's outside. That's a third party. And if anything, let's reference the ones that are still the layer ones doing their things, your XRPs, your Stellars, so on and so forth. That is where it's at. The banks recognize where that is at. And if anything, how do we get true scalability? Well, it's with that interoperability solution. Back to Quant. And we'll get more into that here in a second. So jump into the next part. Check this out. Let's get more into this because, again, when we do, it really opens up other things. And more importantly, once again, to another source. And that is basically speaking from Asia Global Institute, HKU, once again. Why cite it? Well, here you go, because this is what we do. When we get more into it, it's interesting to see that fully decentralized systems will need to use permissionless DLTs, most likely with blockchain, while the more likely centralized and hybrid SDCs would use permission DLT. If they use DLT at all in terms of issuance control, the system likely to be centralized. Yet DLT often suffers from performance data. Right. And look what's cited right below that. ISO TC 307. Interesting. And also really interesting to see the whole thing of standards contain 42% participating members, including China, Russia, and most of Europe. Wow. All right. What else? Well, again, as we get more into this, what do you see here? You see from ResearchGate back in 2020 on security and privacy of consensus-based protocols in blockchain and smart grid, you have this particular reference. Why is that important? Because it's important to understand the thesis. And this thesis focuses on the security, privacy aspects of a few popular consensus-based protocols in blockchain and smart grid, the blockchain area. They analyze the consensus protocol of one of the most popular payment systems, Ripple. They show how the parameters chosen by the Ripple designers do not prevent the occurrence of forks in the system. How many times have we heard people say that Stellar is a fork of Ripple? I get the analogy, but technically speaking, it is not. Furthermore, we provide the conditions to prevent any fork in the Ripple network. Boom. In the smart grid area, we discussed the privacy issues and economic dispatch. And I know I'm getting really technical here, but I wanted to point that out. And more importantly, it's also taking to this next part. Why? Well, this is how things come full circle. This is from ethesis.dur.ac.uk. It's a PDF. Why is this important? Because it's in this section of 3.2, materiality. The XRP ledger combines trust lines, which resemble a Hawala credit network. Yeah, the XRP crypto asset. Now, again, think about some of this terminology. Crypto asset? Yeah, that's right. The ledger records all trust lines set up in the network. It routes payments across trust lines from a sender and, of course, to who? A receiver. Most of us know this. But what also gets interesting is if you were to open up this particular PDF, and it's basically from a government site, okay? And this is one I took a liberty to really get into the weeds for you guys. This is from March 1st, 1990. United States Department of State, Bureau of International Narcotics Matters. Sounds like doom and gloom. But when you get more into it, what does it say here? It says officials in both the United States and India, keyword India, however, have expressed increased concern regarding the significant rise of gold smuggling into India. India is the country right behind China as far as having billions in population. I think they're roughly at 1.5, 1.7 billion. I think China is at 1.8, 1.9 last I checked. But still, they definitely stand out in that piece of pie, right? Representing a huge portion of the population, the world's population. But look what it says. It's that connection to international heroin trafficking. Indian law enforcement, at least then, reportedly theorized that proceeds from successful heroin smuggling venture are being transferred to gold source countries through use of the Hawala system to purchase gold for resale in India, where the price of gold is extremely high due to its lack of availability. This type of exchange gives traffickers added leverage in negotiating favorable terms for heroin transactions. That sounds crazy. Now, with that said, if you're new to this particular channel, that is not me flooding you out of your XRP or any of this stuff. You got to keep in mind, I was flooded out originally in BTC years ago because I gave into that narrative that, oh, you don't want to invest in that because if you do, it's tied to drug trafficking. Well, guess what? I mean, at the end of the day, so is cash. You know, what are we gonna do? Not pay our bills? You get where I'm going with that. People point out like, oh, Ripple and Stellar and Quant and all these ones, Hedera, are tied to the WEF, World Economic Forum. Hey, I get that. I'm not fans of the WEF either. But pick your poison. Heck, this is a polo hoodie. I'm sure there's some bad juju there too. The Nike's on my feet keeps my cipher complete, but at the end of the day, that probably has some ties to some other bad thing. Where does it end? We're going to do just be naked inside of our house, never go outside, never do anything. The point is, I am not going to miss out this time around and get flooded out of anything. It's not financial advice. I hope to God none of you guys get flooded out either. But I want to point that out. All right, getting back on topic because we got to get back into this, and I don't want to turn this into an hour-long show. But check this out. A little bit more about the Hawala thing. So at the end of the day, why even talk about it, Max? Well, Hawala, is it preferred by its users? The answer is somewhat of a yes. And in addition to the Hawala system, again, this is from corporatefinanceinstitute.com, in addition to the Hawala system being much quicker, think about the terminology, and convenient in terms of transferring payments, its users are also attracted by other advantages such as the ability to transfer money between poor and less developed countries where formal banking systems are expensive or harder to access by those from a lower economic status. Think about it. I guess we could throw like Stellar into this mix, right? Absolutely. All right. So what else do we got and why talk about it? Well, this gets really, really good because back to the one and only Quincy Butler with his reference of SHA-512 algorithm. See what we're doing here? Yes. The reason why I point this out is because even on a basic search in the United Arab Emirates, and we know they're real big on Ripple XRP, are they not? SHA-512 is considered a widely accepted and secure cryptographic hash algorithm. Now, some of you guys are the hardcore Bitcoiners. You're like, yeah, so what? I already know that. Hey, good for you. Not everybody knows this. Just like in most other countries, used for generating unique fixed link strings from input data, commonly employed for password hashing, digital signature verification, and data integrity checks due to its robust security standards. Point is this, when we get further into it, it opens up a whole rabbit hole, as the saying goes. And here's another boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew moment. Shout out to Channing Harrell. He already is ahead of most of us when it comes to this because he watches the outlines and he gets it. And some of you guys get it too. But for all the new people, this is why we do the research. It's that NIST reference. We already confirmed this in other deep dive videos. So you're going to want to watch those videos if you want to learn more about Quant. But what does it say? In August 2012, NIST revised the SP 800-107 in the same manner. But NIST hash function competition selected a new hash function, SHA-3, in 2012. The SHA-3 algorithm is not derived from SHA-2. Why is that important? NIST is part of ISO TC 307, the Quant network standard. NIST has existed long before Quant was even a thing. That is a fact. You can check the research, look into it, done many deep dives talking on the live show, and also, of course, recorded talking about this particular subject. All right. What else, Max? SHA-256 is used for authenticating Debian software packages and in the DKIM message signing standard. And there's a lot more here, and it goes on to mention several cryptocurrencies, like also including Bitcoin. Use SHA-256 where we stay that because, verifying transactions, calculating proof of work, yada, yada. Emphasis on DKIM message signing standard. Why? As we get into this, you will see it's abbreviated as domain keys identified mail. Yes, is right. Because it is designed to detect forged sender addresses. Again, back to the whole thing of the suppression and the whole, terrorist thing and the whole thing of, money laundering and all the bad stuff, all the bad juju, right? But when you get more into protocols, now, why is this important? Well, we'll get into that in a second. But when you see these examples about DKIM allows the receiver to check that an email is claimed to have some specific domain authorized by the owner, so on and so forth, it brings us, of course, to this. And it's the whole thing of Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, SMTP. Now, why is that important? Here's why it's important. And here's your nice little break. Jed McCaleb is going to tell you why this is important. Here's your Stellar segment. Let's go ahead and play this. Be right back. Here we go.
How payments work in the world, it just became really clear to me that there needed to be this universal payment network, right? There needed to be essentially a way that no matter what financial institution you use, whether you're at a bank or like some mobile money thing or like Venmo or whatever, or you're using one currency and someone else is using another, all of these things should be interoperable, right? It should work like the internet does. So the analogy we always use is basically the SMTP is the underlying protocol for email, right? And it basically means where you don't have to care if somebody's at a university or a company or whatever, as long as they're running a mail server, you can send a message to them, right? And the same should be true of payments, I think. And so that's what Stellar is designed to be, is this universal payment network, essentially.
He's with Ripple. Of course, he's in Stellar. He's still part of Stellar, technically speaking. Some people think he retired. He didn't. He's still with them, helping out. He's the architect, right? So I shared some of that before on another video, but I wanted to pound that home. All right, a little bit more about this. Why share any of this? And what do we have in regards to some of these particular claims instead of just recycling the past? Well, check this out. This is another one because it's, again, the updates. This time from TradingView. A lot of you guys use TradingView. So on TradingView's citation, it says, plain as day, each contract is designed for accessibility with silver futures at 50 troy ounces and Stellar at 5,000 tokens, enabling traders of varying levels to engage in these markets for price discovery and risk management. And of course, gives you the whole gist of Jed McCaleb. That's why I'm referencing him. And more importantly, as we get further into it, back to the whole thing of standards. Why? Well, this is from Money Infrastructure's Blockchain Tech. Okay. In this PDF, the reason why I want to share it with you is look what it says. It says standards are socially constructed tools. They embody the outcomes of negotiations that are simultaneously technical, social, and political in character. More importantly, one of the indicators of the increasingly political nature of the standardization battle is setting up by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, of the ISO Technical Committee 307, the Quant Network Standard on blockchain distributed ledger technologies. This battle is geopolitical in its consequences and import ostensibly. Now, look what it says about Russia. Remember how we mentioned Russia earlier? Russian authorities have been investing quite heavily in lobbying, quote, to make blockchain a Russian technology in the same way as the internet has been an American technology. Now, check this out. You may think, Max, where the heck are you going with all of this? How do you tie it all in together? This is beautiful. Watch this. Because as you see here, if you were to type in that keyword earlier, remember crypto asset? Well, you go to quant.network, it only comes up with a search of 101. And some people are going to say, well, that's just a giant coincidence. So what? So you're good at searching for stuff. But here's the thing. When you search for that, 101 comes up, a sound regulatory approach for digital assets. Now check this out. When we open up that search, it brings us to the 101 search, August 15th, 2022. Look how this ages. Sound regulatory approach for digital assets by Gilbert Verdian. Tags, digital assets, enterprises, financial institutions. More importantly, it's the new rules, everybody. The UK's Financial Services and Markets Bill, and the EU's Crypto Assets Regulation, MiCA. I found out the right way actually is MiCA. I used to think it was MiCA or MiCA. It's a MiCA. Okay, I listened to the English version and the US version. They say it's MiCA. Anyway, should be welcome, argues Quant's founder Gilbert Verdian. We published with the permission of Thomson Reuters Regulatory Intelligence. All right, now watch this. As we jump down to it, the new EU and UK rules aim to tackle the risks, and I have an update in regards to this. The EU provisionally agreed to markets and crypto asset regulation, MiCA, at least back in June 2022. We had updates since then, obviously, but it was designed to complement anti-money laundering practices and enhance consumer protections. See how we have tied that into what? Yes, that's right, the whole thing of Hawala. Why bring it to you guys? Again, it's connecting things. So the regulation applies AML and market abuse regulations to crypto assets, and it requires the European Banking Authority to maintain, a public register of non-compliant providers. Think about the mandate, everybody, that is coming forward, especially November 2025, right? Under a year now, basically, from where we're at now. And there's so much excitement. But guys, gals, ladies and gentlemen, this is just the retail. All right. We're not even at a true utility run. It may seem like it, but it's not. All right. A little bit more about this. I know I keep saying that. Here's your update, November 26, 2024. Watch how this ages well. From Helen Partz from Cointelegraph. Former Binance executive launches MiCA compliant Euro stablecoin. I'm telling you flat out, a lot of people are wondering, why is Quant all of a sudden doing this thing? This is a taste of things to come because, for example, expected to launch in the coming weeks, Schumann's new Euro-backed stablecoin labels 107 countries as high risk. All right. Well, I thought in order to have regulations, we can't have all this high risk. Can't be so volatile, right? Right. Check this out. So we get further into this. As Europe prepares for the final enforcement deadline of the markets and crypto assets regulation, MiCA, by year's end, a new euro-backed stablecoin is entering the market. All right. Enter in who? Schumann Financial, new cryptocurrency firm founded by former Binance executives, including Martin Brunko and Eduardo Morrison, officially emerged from the stealth mode with the launch of a new euro-pegged stablecoin. EuroPs, I guess that's what you're going to call it, Europ. I don't know the right pronunciation. Launch comes after Schumann Financial closed an oversubscribed 7 million euro, 7.36 million seed round led by the Web3 venture capital firm RockawayX. Now remember RockawayX. I'll share that reason with you here in a bit. But the point is, this gentleman right here, and more importantly, when we get further into this whole thing about some of these key players that you see here. Okay, so this is going to go live soon. Tokenized real world assets, all this stuff. All right, so what do I got? Well, as we jump into it, RockawayX, what is that? Decentralizing networks with the institutional grade infrastructure. And look what it says. Through the provision of dedicated infrastructure, we secure decentralized and scale networks by providing best-in-class staking and node infrastructure. Our live node monitoring and metrics tools guarantee minimum downtime with any operations team on hand 24/7. I mean, it sounds good, but it's the infrastructure. Because if you go to RockawayX.com/infrastructure, you will see again, this key area. And why is that important? Because it's the supported chains. You see Ethereum, you see Solana, you see Axelar, you see some of these other key ones, Polygon, Avalanche, Optimism, so on and so forth. By the way, Overledger has full integration with Optimism. I'll have to show you guys a deep dive video with the Jasmine segment about why that's important. But it's all there. So again, why point this all out? Well, again, it's operational standards, okay? And what standards could be connected to this? And again, I'll show you why that's important here in a bit, because as we get further into it, as you see right here, you have these particular ISO standards, and more importantly, is also understanding the links to it all. Because again, why? Well, basically speaking, this particular gentleman has some connections. And as we got more into this, it's understanding, again, some of the key things. And when we talk about it all, it's those links to what this guy is part of. And more importantly, is understanding, again, how it all comes together. Okay. So I'm going to take you over to here. This is copper.co. This is your XDC segment. XDC Copper.co, appointed by Zenfin for institutional custody solution. Enterprise blockchain interoperability specialist Zenfin, appoint Copper.co. A lot of you guys already know about that. But more importantly, Copper is the trading name of Copper Markets Switzerland AG, company registered in Switzerland. As we get further into this, it opens up other things. And what does it say? From coinrivet.com, Copper is also planning to provide support for Zenfin's primary chain coin XDC, of course, in the near future. The future is already here. More importantly, when you get further into even this, what do we also see? We see some other key things, and that is basically this next part. Because sometimes you may feel as though that this goes over your head, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't at all. When you jump over to here on X, you will see the XDC network stands behind DEC Australia. Again, this was just posted just a few days ago, November 27th. And XDC Australia, in our encouragement to make the leap into digital and into Web3 for greater security, efficiency, productivity, and democratization for all Australians. Think about that. XDC Networks is primed for infrastructure, payments, and tokenization. All right. So you have these people tied into ISO standards and, if anything, like 307. But again, Australia. Well, Australia is big on Quant, especially because of their standard, TC 307. But again, when we get more into it, Digital Economy Council for Australia, yeah, because that now opens up this. When you do a basic search about some of this stuff, you will see, if you go to twobirds.com, interesting name, what do we have? See how it came all full circle, everybody? You see that you have ISO TC 307, and more importantly, back in March of 2017, Standards Australia in Australia announced that it will manage the Secretariat of the International Committee, but more importantly, said that basically speaking, would re-engineer transactions across the economy, and this would position Australia as a leading global player in this new exciting technology. All right. Is that all you got, Max? That's not good enough. Well, check this out. It's the Overledger integrations, and key showcase highlight is GoCardless. Now, we talk about this with the Finternet and all these key things. Watch what happens here. It's the one highlighted in yellow, by the way. Because when I take you over to here, I already put this together for you all. Remember how we talked about that ISO TC 307, which is the Quant network standard, would orchestrate ISO? Well, look at this. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. Because we see here, and I'll explain this, we were going to start an Overledger new account event. Then, if anything, we're going to make an API call with the Overledger to ISO to convert country code to a country name. And then we're going to send that over to a country name to a country code. Remember those codes I was telling you about? Yeah, what about XRP? You've already seen the examples of how the Overledger connects to XRP. What about XDC? We've seen those examples too. But more importantly, it's there because you have to have the codes. Okay. So when we kick it down, I know it's hard to read, but this is the biggest I can make it without, moving the screen left and right. It's kicking it down to where it says convert currency code to currency name. And then so we jump further up, convert currency name to currency code, back down to the Overledger to prepare a smart contract transaction. I'm not making this up. It's there plain as day. This is from a make.com integration of Overledger account. Anybody is welcome to do the same thing. Then we connect it to what? GoCardless to do what? Get a mandate. Again, the mandate. When we talk about some of this stuff, what about ISO 222 mandate? And when is that? November 2025. Interesting. Then we connect that to GoCardless. Create an instant bank payment. Then we kick it over to creating an instant first payment and direct debit mandate. Maybe like a subscription. Exactly. Maybe like a subscription. Then from there, what else do we have? Well, we have the whole thing of, I guess I'll just switch it over to that screen. The reading from a smart contract through what? The Overledger. Right. Quant. Kicking it to what? GoCardless search payments. And then the final part to sign a transaction. So all the studying that we've done for 3 years about Quant, Overledger, and the orchestration of ISO, there you go. Nice to see that example. Now, I get it. You may be wondering, GoCardless. I don't get it. Well, if you go to GoCardless.com, it says basically there's a better way to get paid. Remember how we talked about that? It's the terminology. Even FedNow talks about this, right? Look what it says. There's a better way to get paid. With ACH, automated clearinghouse, by the way, pull from GoCardless, automatically pull payments from your customers, receive more cents on the dollar, get paid faster and safer. I mean, Gilbert Verdin is still a chair on what? Well, the whole thing with the New York Fed. Yeah, the Federal Reserve, right? So we have talked about how he's basically the culprit of FedNow. Again, think about it. Think about the terminology. And if anything, think about the whole thing of the FinterNet. I know I need to do a video about that on update, and I will. But I'm going to get further into this because when we go to the partners of GoCardless.com, well, look what it mentions here. A lot of things to be mentioned. And it says feature partners. ChargeBee, empowering businesses and subscription management. Think about that. Salesforce, automating quote to cash with payments fully on platform. What about Xero? Automatically collect payment for your Xero invoices with GoCardless. Sounds like you need an API platform to make this happen, right? The Overledger. More importantly, Zora. GoCardless works with Zora powering bank debit payments for the subscription economy. Well, as I get further into this, what do we have here? GoCardless is a fintech company that specializes in bank payments, including recurring payments, direct debit, processing, open banking. GoCardless is headquartered, oh, what a coincidence, London, United Kingdom. And more importantly, GoCardless provides a payment gateway. Gee, I wonder what one that would be. That enables businesses to set up and manage payments, subscriptions, and invoices with automated payment processing. As of 2022, GoCardless reportedly processes 30 billion worth of transactions annually and operates in the UK, European Union, Australia. Gee, I wonder, Australia. New Zealand, Canada, and even the United States. There's history behind here. I won't read it all, but wow, look what it says. The company's initial focus was to provide a platform for small and medium-sized businesses to collect recurring payments via direct debit. Again, think about the recurring payments. That's a lot of utility in motion reoccurring. In 2012, the company received 1.5 million in funding from investors. And here is your next boil it, mash it, stick it in stew moment. What does it say? You've been following my channel for a while. Y Combinator. Why is that important? Here's your surprise. Shout out to Rue Black. Shout out to Underdog with Underdog Research Channel. Follow these guys. because over 3 months ago, I did a deep dive about Stellar, Stellar XLM, and the Swift coin. No, I'm not talking about Swift as in the old traditional Swift, messaging, right? Not that, but Swift blockchain. So Stellar Swift, this company helped companies like Coinbase do an average of a 3x. Who is Y Combinator? Think about that. See how that all came full circle? I hope you do. I know that the video is getting a little bit longer, but it is what it is. If we go to overledger.com, what do we see? Transform your business with simple, trusted, and future-proof blockchain technology. XRP, we see Polygon, we see Polkadot Layer 0, we see XDC, we see Hyperledger Fabric, we see even Avalanche, we even see Slow BTC, we see Ethereum, and we see some of these other ones. It is there, and it always will be. All right, here is your answer moving forward. Here is your answer for XRP 589. Okay, so basically speaking, let's take you over to here. This is just basically with Gemini AI. But here's the cool thing. Okay, so when we get into this, it's the whole thing of this. Can we get the number 589 out of what? That crazy number that we referenced earlier before right here. That currency code. I'm telling you flat out, I think this mystery is finally solved. Maybe somebody else solved it in the past, and my apologies, but this is what I found. Because check this out. When we get into it, it says here that basically speaking, to directly extract the number 589 from the hexadecimal string that we saw, which is that particular code referenced to XRP, and convert it to decimal, you can follow these steps. All right, this is the nerdy stuff, but hear me out. You will isolate the relevant hexadecimal digits. You will identify the portion of the string that contains the digits of interest, 585250. You will convert the hexadecimal to decimal. Each hexadecimal digit represents a power of 16. Convert each digit, to its decimal equivalent. 5 hexadecimal equals 5 decimal. 8 hexadecimal equals 8 decimal. 5 hexadecimal equals 5 decimal. 2 hexadecimal equals 2 decimal. 5 hexadecimal equals 5 decimal. And 0 hexadecimal equals 0 decimal. Then you will calculate the decimal value. So from here, you will multiply each decimal equivalent by its corresponding what? Power of 16 and sum the results. And here you see the formula. Okay, some of you guys are really into this. I took college algebra in the past. I don't want to get too deep into it, but the point is, it does add up. And when I got more into it, I did it from a different source. I think it was ChatGPT, and it also added up to the same thing. But the point is, this calculation will give you what? The decimal value of 589. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew, because if anything, it's referencing what, everybody? The codes. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to the entire outline. Simply do me a favor if you did, and type this into the comments. And that is 589 gold. And I'll know that you listened to the entire outline. I really appreciate you guys listening to these outlines. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Look at these coins that a lot of people said we would never do anything, and look where they're at now. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad to have you. If anything, I hope I earned your subscription if you're new. And if you're a long-time regular who never subscribed, hopefully I finally earned your subscription. Really appreciate you guys. I won't keep you any further. Thanks again for tuning in. God bless you all. I'm rooting for every single one of you. For real. We will see you on the next one. If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.